Senna is a lie, the documentary's better. The actor doesn't look anything like Ayrton. These are some of the comments that have been made about the series. But how true is all of this? Today I'm going to analyze 3 videos that compare the differences between the series and reality, commenting on how accurate they are and giving my opinion on each one. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, let's go with the first video by some random girl. The video is called Senna Netflix Show vs. Real Moments F1 Edit. So, let's go.
Let's dance and start, let's dance for a while. Heaven couldn't wait, we're only watching the stars. Hoping for the last, but expecting the worst. Are you gonna drop the bomb or not?
Well, actually, here's my first comment. I think in this video it's not that noticeable. But when I watched the series, I remember seeing the moment when they took him out of the car. And Brazil 91 is my favorite race in history. So for me, something that makes it so special is the suffering. And how hard was it for Ayrton to get out of there? I mean, to get out of the car, and how they had to help him and everything. And I feel like they didn't portray it that well in the series. I feel like it went by pretty quickly, honestly. Normally, when you make a series about a historical event, they tend to dramatize it, they tend to make it more incredible, to make it more attention-grabbing. I don't know, to exaggerate it, but in this case, I think reality surpassed fiction. It's that simple. In fact, there's something interesting here, which is that, look, there's a cut, look, a cut. Oh, I don't know if you saw it. This scene caught my attention because I feel like Ayrton has a hard time raising the flag. I don't know. And I feel like in real life, the same thing happens to me as with the previous scene. In real life, it was more exaggerated. I mean, not exaggerated. It was more, you could tell it was harder for him, and I don't think it should be like that, in my opinion. This feels similar to before. I know I've said it 3 times, but I feel like reality surpassed the series. And I feel that, at least in the Senna documentary, you can appreciate it much better, and it conveys much better what he was going through to be there at that moment, and that despite everything that was happening, he was there to show his gratitude to the public who had supported him through all that time. During the race, especially when the gearbox failed and everything else happened, I think this series shows it well, but not as well as real life. So, let's keep going. In fact, I don't know if I'm the only one. I don't know if in the series, in the Netflix series, they used cars from, real shots, real scenes. I got the impression that they did. Obviously not this one, and obviously it looks similar. But I don't know. If someone knows it, let me know. In the previous one, I'll let it play again. I think this is one of the worst things they did for 2 reasons. First, because I don't know why they put it in a garage, honestly, when, you had the real shot, which was much more natural. The whole idea of this scene is that they're not friends, but they get along, and it's like what comes before they start hating each other and all that. But it was more about showing them as friends. And in reality, they're on a couch, they were comfortable. In fact, Senna has his arm like behind Prost, literally showing themselves as friends. On the other hand, in the garage, it's a less cozy place, more like with metals, less welcoming, and besides, they're separated. So for me, that's not it, right? It breaks a bit with what reality was and what you see, the original shot. And on the other hand, I also think it makes a directing mistake. Obviously, I'm not a film director or anything, but I think it didn't turn out well. I understand the logic of wanting to film one person's face, then the others, and play with the action reaction. But in the original shot, the fact that both of them are on camera the whole time seems perfect to me, because you see at the same time how one speaks, how the other reacts, how one talks. And I don't know, I think that's a bit lost in the series, honestly. I remember when I saw it and I said this is one of the scenes I like the least, the way they adapted it. But anyway, let's continue. Actually, in the previous one, I thought it had been a real take. I don't know if now it's kind of halfway done, but anyway. Let's see, Suzuka.
It excites me to see. It's one of my favorite moments to see this.
Not this in particular. Again, the scene from when they go to Brazil in 91, in fact, this is where they are. One of my biggest problems is that I'm not sure if it's personal, since I'm a huge fan of both Senna and this race. When he gets out of the car in the series, it seems like he celebrates with his dad, but it loses the essence of what he went through. When he gets out of the car, the first thing he does is celebrate with his father. Before saying anything, he tells his dad he can't move his arms. He's like this. And he calls his dad and says, "Dad, come here, come here." But he tells him, "Don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me." And he says it really seriously. And here, that gets a bit lost. Well, anyway. In fact, if you see, look, I'll let it play for a bit. If you look at it, in the shot from above, you can see him smiling. He looks happy. And obviously, he was happy. He had won. But in the shot from below, you can't really see his face that much. But it was like a combination, obviously of joy, but also of pain. What stood out most was the pain, and that he was with his father. He wasn't hugging him because he couldn't move his arms, but it was the pain that was predominant, not a smile like you see above. And another thing, it's not that I have nothing against the actor. I don't remember his name. Something Leon. I don't remember his name. But I feel like his expression was too nice, and Senna wasn't really like that. I feel like he was a bit more serious. I feel like he was more arrogant. I feel like, and I'm not saying this as a criticism, it was just his personality. He gave off more of a presence and authority from that point of arrogance, let's say, and I don't know. I thought the actor made him seem too nice, and actually, throughout the series, they make him up, they sugarcoat him a lot. As I said, I'm a big fan of Senna. Well, maybe not the biggest, but definitely quite a fan. But throughout the series, they try to show that Senna was perfect, that he did everything right. And the only moment when he makes a mistake is in Monaco, in '88. I think that's it, and nothing else when, I don't know. I think I would have liked to see both sides of Senna too, and not just all the good things, let's say. No, thank you for the video. Before moving on to the next one, subscribe. All right, let's go with the next video. I think this one is more like an analysis, and it's called The 5 Big Lies About the Netflix Series of Ayrton Senna, The Truth About Laura Harrison, and that's where the title ends. Well, it's by Seward. Seward? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but anyway, there it is. Let's go.
The 5 Big Lies About the Netflix Series of Ayrton Senna, The Truth About Laura Harrison and the Baroness. The video streaming platform has released a miniseries titled Senna in honor of the late driver who died in San Marino in 19...
Late. It should be honored, honorable, something like that.
Netflix released a miniseries based on the life of the late Formula One world champion Ayrton Senna on November 29.
Or deceased, I don't know.
The 6-episode series faithfully depicts some of the most famous moments in the life of the Brazilian athlete. However, there are certain fictional liberties that did not actually happen in real life. To find the first untruth about Senna, we have to go back to 1979, specifically to the driver's first participation in the karting world championship. Contrary to what fiction says, Senna was the runner-up even though he thought he had won, because the tiebreaker was not the result of the last race but rather the position in the finals. The identity of another one of the main characters.
In fact, he did know this, so they kind of over-dramatized it to make it seem like Senna was being robbed. But in reality, it was something that was actually stipulated in the rules, so, well, that's it. It's strange because they kind of dramatize this, and I get that the idea is to build the story and the narrative by the time Balestri comes out and with Prost in '89 and so on. But I don't know. I mean, they over-dramatize this, but at the most important moment, or one of the most important moments of his career, like in '91, they just let it go. I don't know. I think that part could have been done better. Anyway, let's continue.
Is that also something that's questioned after going through the lie detector? Laura Harrison, the reporter who follows Ayrton to every circuit where he competes, never existed. According to the creators of the show, she is a device to bring to life all the critics that the Brazilian had throughout his career. In this series, the driver for the Toleman team has a romance with a Monegasque baroness.
In fact, I also remember that when the series ended, I looked up Laura Harrison to find out who she was and discovered the same thing, that she didn't exist. It's strange because I think in the end, it's not strange, but I didn't really like it, that she's not real because in the end they show a tape that she records. I think she gives him a tape or a text where it's her story and everything, and I understand the logic of how. First her critics, and then like when she passes away or when she's in her last races, also how they end up appreciating her. But I don't know. It was strange, honestly.
Before the Grand Prix of the Principality in 1984.
I didn't know this, but
There is no evidence that this happened in real life, nor that Senna had deep ties with the local high society.
I didn't know that, but I don't think it matters.
And to continue with sentimental matters. The first meeting with Galisteo wasn't on the day it happened with Senna after winning the 1993 Interlagos Grand Prix but a day later, as his biography recounts.
Interesting.
The last concession to fiction has a short sporting life. The 1988 World Championship was won according to the rules by the driver who achieved the 11 best results in title races, not by 8 wins as the series says.
Yeah, look, it's true. I knew this too. This is true, but obviously it's a narrative device because the rules back then were really complicated. They were really complicated. So I think it's better, even if it wasn't completely accurate, I think it's a good way to simplify it. Like, you get to 8 and you win, instead of saying, well, the last 3 races are eliminated and from the last 3 races you take your best results. And Ayrton had dropped out more. I think it was overcomplicating it for an audience that doesn't necessarily care that much about the rules or Formula One, but more about Senna's story. So I think that resource is well done. And yeah, that's it. And I think the video ends here, right? I understand.
Precisely that year, already enrolled in the ranks of McLaren, Senna won his first title despite having scored fewer points counting the discards than his rival, Alain Prost.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what I was saying. That Senna became champion. I'm not sure if it's mentioned in the series, I just remembered and hadn't said it before. But that adds more life and interest. It's like they put a counter, like on part of the screen. And then Prost comes up, 1 win, Senna, 1 win. And they keep adding up to reach 8. So, I repeat, I think it's a good device, but yeah, I don't know if it's mentioned in the series, but yeah. In fact, Senna had fewer points than Prost, and it wasn't just about wins. I mean, it was about points, but some results were dropped. And since Senna had more retirements, and his worst results were worse than Prost's, so when they subtracted the points from their worst results throughout the year, Senna ended up ahead. But if you add up the points from all the races, Prost was the champion in that sense. But well, those were the rules.
Follow the DiarioS channel on WhatsApp where you'll find all sports in one place.
Well, free advertising.
Today's latest news and the most current sporting event schedule.
Perfect. And now we move on to the last one, which is Ayrton Senna, Netflix, The Good and the Bad from Nasty Cine. So that's it. Let's go. This seems more like a documentary. Let's see.
Senna says at the end of the series that his whole life he had been racing against time, and this is the key to understanding Senna, the new biopic series on Netflix. Now, almost 3 decades after the tragic accident in which Ayrton Senna died, the Red N platform is looking to win over motorsport fans by bringing back the Brazilian hero. But does the series manage to capture the essence of the driver, or does it get lost in the stereotypes of a conventional biopic? With such a good documentary already out there, why do we need fiction with all its creative liberties to revisit this driver's life again? Welcome to the review Senna, the time tunnel, where Ayrton Senna's life becomes a journey as frantic as it is dramatic.
As a content creator, honestly, I have to say I love the introduction. I mean, I really loved it. I love how they use the sound of the... I love how they use the clock sound, especially since they're discussing time, and speed it up as the crash approaches. But to answer your question a bit, and I imagine that's what the video's about and they're going to talk about it, but I think it was... I don't know if it was necessary, but it was definitely quite useful. I think a lot of people didn't know who Ayrton Senna was. In fact, I made a video about him right around the time the series came out and it blew up. And a lot of people were telling me, oh, I just found out about him because of the series, or, oh, I know about Senna because of your video and now I'm going to watch the series and so on. So I don't know. I think it's a good thing. And the documentary, I feel like in recent years, a lot more people have come in with Drive to Survive. Since 2018, 19, 20 Hamilton, Verstappen, and now with Colapinto, even more people have joined. And that's it. The Netflix series has been well received. Likely because few people saw or even knew about the earlier documentary, except those who made it. I'm not sure new fans knew about the Senna documentary on Netflix, but now with the series, it's a more entertaining and easier way to learn. I like the documentary more, but I understand that this also focuses more on the drama. And it tells more of a story from the personal side than the sports side. And I don't know, I think it's fine. I think it helps. It helps more people get to know Senna. That's it. I'm happy because he's my favorite driver. I've mentioned this before, so let's continue the video.
The series begins with the end, Senna's tragic accident at Imola in 1994. From there, each episode is an attempt to bring the hero to life, but always with the shadow of his fatal destiny looming over every moment. It's a structure that reflects Ayrton's own phrase, "I always raced against time, not just against the stopwatch on the tracks, but also in his personal life and his meteoric rise to Formula One." From his beginnings in karting to his arrival in Europe, the series shows a young Ayrton with an almost supernatural talent. But this is also where the series begins to show his first problems. The script leans toward the myth, portraying him as an infallible hero, while omitting and simplifying many of the nuances of his personality, and thus, in my opinion, making it a portrait that is too idealized.
That's what I said when we saw, maybe in the previous video, that they only said good things about Senna. I think it was in the first one, when I saw Senna's face. He seemed like a nicer guy, but everything was good, and he was like the hero, and everything was perfect and all that, and Senna wasn't like that. I mean, actually, you can look up controversies about Ayrton Senna, and you'll find quite a few. And I think, like I said, the most controversial thing, apart from his crash in Monaco, well, obviously the way he won in '90, but I totally agree with that video.
But here we see one of the elements that give life and meaning to the series. It's in the third episode where the series introduces a visual element that becomes its trademark, the time tunnel. During a race in Monaco, we see how everything stops while Senna seems to enter a state of hyper-concentration, a kind of superpower that allows him to anticipate the movements of his car and his rivals. It's a moment that's not only spectacular but also sums up what made Ayrton a unique driver, his ability to surpass the limits of what is human. The series uses these moments of suspended time to represent the driver's unique perception, as if he were really racing on another physical plane, on another mental plane.
It was a tunnel and I just had to keep going and faster and faster. I was very far from my consciousness.
It's one of the few times when the narrative and visual style of the series rise above the cliches of racing films. Despite the brilliant moments, the series often falls into the traps of the traditional biopic. The villains.
Before we continue with the Prost thing, which I think I know what you'll say, I'll just leave it at that. But I feel that yes, the device is good. The time tunnel device, as the current video calls it. But I specifically feel that the scene they're showing from Monaco '88 was way too romanticized. Like, yeah, he saw the tunnel and all that, and he learned from his mistake, let's say, but he was in first place, he was winning. And he crashed in a really irresponsible way, honestly. And even so, the series romanticized it. Quite a moment that, honestly, is a serious mistake. And I don't know, it's what I also say about how I think they romanticize everything and make everything about Senna seem perfect, when really that's just not the case. They'll probably say the same about Prost, just reversed, but oh well.
Like Alain Prost or Jean-Marie Vallée, they are portrayed in a one-dimensional way. And there are other extremely exaggerated moments, like the supposed conspiracy to take away his karting title. And Senna almost always appears as an untouchable saint, losing some of the charisma and complexity that defined him in real life. But there are exceptions. The fourth episode.
Yes, just before you continue, I mean, 100% that's what I was saying. They portray him as good, like everything is fine. And they portray Prost as if everything he did was wrong, and it wasn't like that either. On the other hand, Balstrier, like I said in the previous video about the karting, it wasn't a conspiracy for him to lose. That's just how the rules were when they didn't show it. And they didn't show it that way at all. So that's on Balstrier's side, even though I really don't like him at all.
The episode takes the necessary time to explore Ayrton's personal relationships, especially with his girlfriend at the time, the famous Shusha, and also to portray the power games within McLaren. And the fifth episode, the victory at the Brazilian Grand Prix, shows us Senna at his highest point but also at his most vulnerable. The race, filmed with astonishing intensity, culminates with Ayrton winning despite having a broken gearbox. In one of the sequences, one of the most exciting sequences in the entire series, which lasts about 12 minutes.
12 minutes that's a lot.
However, the series often takes too many creative liberties. The inclusion of
Before the situation with Laura Harrison, I think that's her name. The scene was exciting and I liked it, but I still feel it didn't do justice to reality. I feel like reality was actually better, but overall I agree with what you're saying.
The fictional journalist who accompanies Ayrton throughout his entire career feels like an attempt to represent his changing relationship with the press. The final episode tries to end on an extremely emotional note, showing the fictional recording of Ayrton reflecting on his entire life. This device is notably moving, perhaps too much so. I believe that Senna doesn't need fabricated speeches.
But what happened here is wrong.
His legacy is in every race, in every corner he took to the limit. But above all, in his attempt to race against time, the Senna series achieves moments of brilliance, but also stumbles into the cliches of biopics. However, there is something that cannot be denied. Ayrton Senna remains a timeless icon, and this series, with all its strengths, reminds us that Ayrton didn't just race, he lived in this tunnel where everything stopped.
All good, very nice how the music was cut. Well, that's it, and I pretty much agree with what has been said, and as I mentioned, ultimately it was about going deeper. Not just covering the races and results in the documentary, but exploring his emotional side too. And as the author of this video, Nasty Cine, says, they exaggerate a lot at certain moments. But well, I think that's also part of how they sell the series, and that's my opinion. And if you want to watch the video I made about Senna, I'll leave it here, so click here and, well, subscribe.